Alright, so one thing I wanted to add in here on this particular one, right here is where I think that transition happens, and I could fill it this later, but I think as I'm looking at it, it might be better off for me to temporarily make this sketch invisible and then go ahead and throw, because I don't really want a sharp edge right there, I don't think. But if I do a 3D fillet here, 3D fillet's nicer than going back to the revolve sketch, because in here I can actually click on it, type in different values. You know, for example, if I wanted some giant fillet there, I could mess with that. For right now, I don't think I want to go too crazy for this one. I can't really tell on the wheel itself with just that one image, but I think 0.1 should be okay for what I am doing right now. Like I said, I could also, and I might end up, if it gets glitchy, I might go back and get rid of this fillet and then fill it at the end. We'll try it with the fillet first, see what happens. I got that, and I'm going to go back, get this thing back in action here. And I don't really want my stuff to move, so if you saw when I moved that, things moved around. I want that image, and it's easy when I'm tracing for things to move around, so this is one of the few times I'm going to fix that in place. So I'm just going to get the image, click the two sides there, and try and fix that into place. Now, if the image still moves, that's because it was hiding underneath these lines. So if I just do a coincident constraint between point and point there, now when I click around, it looks like things aren't moving. Might want to throw another one down on the bottom if you felt like it, but I think that's going to do it for me on this particular one. Now, in this sketch, I don't need this circle so much, so I'm going to delete it. Also don't really need that one. Don't need those points too much. I think I'm going to leave these two circles in for now. But what I want to do next is I want to look at and I want to see what's repeating when I'm making these wheels. So you can see this V shape. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So whatever I do, the thing that I'm a circular pattern, I want to make sure that it is patterned so that I get evenly spaced 5 versions of what I'm doing. So if I just make 2 lines like that, then I can go dimension and say I want this line and this line to be 360 divided by 5. Once again, Inventor can do math for you if you like. It'll even do all sorts of fractions. But by doing that, I now have this. And I don't want to, there's different ways you could line this up. I'm going to line mine up. Oops. Being a little rude with me here. I'm going to pattern mine based off of that. So if you look, the image works out pretty nice. Key to this is a good image, but this line right here is the start of this area, and then the ending line over here is the start of that same area over there as well. So I'm going to start with that, and once I get that one again, I don't really want to lose that, so very careful here because fix can mess some things up. Once you're really confident you got that where you want it, I'm just going to fix that point because I don't really want that thing to move. And I feel like it's been at least a minute since I saved, so I'm going to save right now and then pop back in. And really, so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to trace out the cutouts. If you had one that is just a cutout that goes straight through, just like our Automoblocks wheel. So if you remember on this one, the cutouts went all the way through, and then we threw in that fillet afterwards. Then you could just do like we did for the Automoblocks one, the default one. Make your little cutout, extrude all the way through, circular pattern, you're good to go. This one I have to do a little bit differently, and so the way I'm going to do this one is I'm just going to trace this inner area and then this inner area first. So my step 1 is to do that. So since I've got that in here, I could use this little circle as a guide as well if I wanted to. But basically, combination of arcs and tangent arcs. If you wanted to do it with lines and then fillet it, that'd be fine. I think that looks pretty archy. And I could use this same circle if I wanted to. For right now, I think I'm just going to go with this. Just make myself a nice little arc. and then a tangent arc. You can try spline. I just tend to find better luck with a little bit of practice from using arcs and tangent lines. So, also a little thing, you can make a tangent arc if you're online and you click and hold. It'll let you do a tangent arc. I find it can be a little bit glitchy, so usually I will just go up to here. I'll waste the time and go up to the ribbon. And then some of these turns like this are too sharp, so I'll split them up with the arcs in 2 tangent arcs. And yeah, it's probably a little too much. So we'll break it up into a couple. I think that's going to be pretty close to there. And I might not make that one a tangent arc. Let's see, let's bring that one down to where it's tangent to that one. And then let's see, extend and trim. Alright, so that one's pretty close. Might change this to, instead of being a line, might make that. Mouse is acting up a little bit. Pull that back. Throw in a tangent arc. And clean that up. Clean that up. Alright, that one looks pretty good. Once again, if you've accomplished something, it's usually a good idea to save. I feel like that was a quality accomplishment. I have set my bar for accomplishment pretty low. So that one's good. If you're worried about losing it or going somewhere, you could lock it. I'm going to leave mine alone because I might want to change some things on it. I don't want to have to worry about fix is not easy to undo. It's kind of annoying having to delete some of those constraints. So that one looks pretty good. Now I have this circle right here, and it does line up with that one. So you could have used this circle as I mentioned before, but if you did what I did and you just made your own arc here, it wouldn't be a bad idea to make sure that arc has the same center as this. Ooh, actually that was not lovely. Should have done that first. Let's see if I can put it back in the spot. But to be all official, you are going to want those to have the same center. Matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead. This way. It's going to be easier to do that than it is. And if I had not made them concentric, I mean, I don't know if you would have noticed much difference, but to be official, I think that's the way you were going to want to do that to get it to line up exactly right. If you just take a glance at it, I don't think it would be very noticeable. But it would have bothered me, so I'm going to change it. Okay. There. So do a little better job than I did with the tracing. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly this wheel. Like, you're just using this wheel as inspiration. So I can bring this in a little bit. So if it's not dead on, that's not a problem. Or like I said before, you're going to make your own custom one, that's fine. Alright, that one's a little better, so I am going to save that one. Now, the whole reason I did that is I'd like this circle to be the same as this circle that's right here. So again, I'm not using this one, I decided to make my own. You could have used that actual one and drawn arcs on it, but I'm just going to go this way. And what I want to do is I want to extend this one over. So when I go to trace this area, I'm using that exact one. So my picture doesn't line up exactly. The picture is not necessarily going to be perfect, but I know I want those to line up. So I'll take that, and then I'll use that arc to start my trace job. And I'm just going to throw some lines on there real quick. Actually, a line and a, I think this one's more 3-point arc. And as soon as I do that, then I can trim that off. So now I'm kind of back to where I was. That's pretty good. Tangent arc. bring that over to there. Nice. Might have gone a little too far. We'll see. Now, for this particular one, so normally I would just trace through here, but I want to do this little black portion here, the kind of pentagon shape. I want to do it later. So I'm actually going to make this line come all the way down here. And then I'm going to draw this line over. Actually, I'll hold off on that line. Let's get this side done first. And I'll explain why momentarily. Like I said, a lot of this is based off of this wheel is a little fancier than some of the others. So again, if you're doing fancy wheel here, I'm going to trace over this whole area there. And then I think I lost my tangent. Cool. And I'm going to do that. Once again, I'll explain that later. But for right now, I'm going to go with that particular setup. And then from there, I'm just going to extrude those two areas all the way through. So I've got, and selecting is always fun. Should have a select other option. Mine goes in and out of working, so I have to move around and change my angle. If I can't select what I want, you kind of just move around, zoom in. Sometimes that helps. Just gotta have the touch. I want that one, and I want this one in here, which is being a little more rude. So I'll go ahead and cancel that real quick. And I got a couple options here. Could come back into this whenever something's not getting selected or it's having trouble. We'll look for spots that aren't touching. Also, don't know if that's tangent or not. I'd like it to be tangent, that's better. But that shouldn't have been my problem. Usually it's going to be a matter of you don't have a line from here to here. It doesn't recognize that this long line, you want to split it up. Now, I thought I put one in there, which I think it did, but even still, sometimes Inventor has trouble with those. I'd say that it's its biggest issue. And then I'll show you another move for if you're having problems. So like this one's being really hard for me to grab. So here's what I will do sometimes is I will put a brand new sketch over top of that sketch. And what you can do is in that sketch, I can just select the lines, for example. So if I say, I want those, I want that. If I hold down Shift, I should be able to select all those. And basically what I'm doing is I'm selecting the profile piece by piece, because then if I copy it, I'm having some trouble here. Try that again. I'm gonna hold down Control. Get this one, get this one, get this one, and I'll show you another way we can do this as well. Take that, and you can try and copy. So copy's not popping up for me. I'm doing something silly. But something else we can do is if you just go into that new sketch that I made, I can come in, I can project geometry. It's basically going to accomplish the same thing, and I can just only project the geometry that I want. So I'm not doing cut edges. I'm only projecting the things I want. And what that does is that lets me have a sketch that instead of this one that has all this other confusing stuff, this one only has that region. So it should be easier for me to select it. Does mean that I'm going to have two separate extrusions, but that's not a big deal. So I'll just go ahead and knock out this one real quick. It was being alright. I do like to extrude all when I do my cuts, just in case I change dimensions. I don't really like typing in numbers. I think it's good practice to do an extrude distance of all. If you had your body visible, make sure that it's selecting the right solid. So mine is solid 6, that's my rims, that's good. If it wasn't, I would just click on solids and I'd select the right one. So that was that cutout. And then I can hit extrude again because I have that other sketch and it automatically selected it for me. So again, if you're having selection problems, that's a pretty good hot tip to get things selected. So I've got that. I'm going to cut all directions. Sweet. And there is that part. So I am going to change something here. I think this is going to cause some issues. The original revolve that I did, I'm going to travel back in time, and I am going to not select this outer part. I just got a feeling that's going to cause some issues when I try and make the fanciness here. So if I hold Control, I click that, then I should be able to just select those, and now I'm looking at something like this. I think that's going to behave better for this particular wheel for me to do that actual axle part afterwards. So that is phase one of the extrusion there. And again, if you had a simpler one, much like the actual Automoblocks wheel, you would extrude this through, circular pattern, and you're probably good to go. So again, if yours was a simple one, or a simpler one than this, you can circular pattern, you could select each extrusion from the model tab or on the images. Any of these circles all have the same axis, so I could select those. I type in how many I want, and voila, I'd have my pattern. Now this particular one, that's not that simple, so I am not going to do that circular pattern for mine, but if yours was simple, you would do that. You'd go back, do your revolve from the original revolve to get all of this outer rim portion. Your wheel would be just about done. But this one is not, so I will stop this video here and then we'll do the next